Hello everyone, welcome back. This is our third lecture on introduction to the tissues and last lecture on connective tissue. In the last one, we have discussed about connective tissue proper, where it is located, what are its main functions, and the classification of connective tissue proper as well. Now in today's lecture, we are going to discuss the further two types of connective tissue, that is supporting connective tissue and fluid connective tissue. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So before moving to the today's topic, we will classify again connective tissue. That is, we have three main types. First is connective tissue proper, then we have supporting connective tissue, then we have fluid connective tissue. These are the main three types of connective tissue. In connective tissue proper, we have further two types. That is, we have loose connective tissue and we have dense connective tissue. In loose, we have further three types. That is, we have loose areolar connective tissue, then we have loose adipose connective tissue. In loose adipose, we have further two, that is white and brown, and then we have loose reticular connective tissue. In the dense, we have similarly we have three types, that is dense regular, dense irregular, and we have elastic connective tissue. Then coming to our today's topic, that is supporting connective tissue and fluid connective tissue. In supporting connective tissue, we have two main types, that is we have cartilage and we have bone in supporting connective tissue. In fluid connective tissue, we have further two types. First one is blood and then we have lymph. So we are going to discuss these one by one. So starting from the cartilage. Cartilage, what it is a supporting connective tissue. It is firm, flexible connective tissue. The cells of cartilage are called chondrocytes and they occupy a space called a lacunae. That is, these are the cells of the cartilage and they occupy a space called a lacunae. And these lacunae are embedded in an extracellular matrix. And this extracellular matrix contains ground substance, protein fibers including collagen, elastic fibers, and depending upon the type of cartilage, they contain superficial fibers, protein fibers. And cartilages are avascular. That is why if we got injury in cartilage, it takes time to heal because there is less, or we can say no, blood supply to the cartilage. Then coming to the types of cartilages, we have three main types. That is, we have hyaline cartilage, then we have fibrocartilage, and then we have elastic cartilage. Now coming to the hyaline cartilage. If you look at this figure, you will see it is a smooth glossy matrix, provides support and flexibility. So you can clearly identify which type of cartilage it is based on the fibers present. In hyaline cartilage, you can see there is a glossy matrix, or there is a smooth appearance, we can say. And what it does, it provides support, it provides flexibility. Where it is located at joint surfaces, where particularly in the ends of long bones, that is we call it as articular cartilage. Then we have, it is also present in the costal cartilage, that is connecting ribs with sternum. Here it is, this hyaline cartilage. And also in the respiratory tract, such as nose, sound box, larynx, that is, and trachea as well. In sound box, we have this elastic cartilage as well. Coming to the second one, that is fibrocartilage. In fibrocartilage, what it is a thick, dense collagen fibers. That is the matrix, or we can say extracellular matrix. It is a thick, dense, and contain collagen fibers. It is very strong and resists compression. Depending upon the structure, that is depending upon the fibers that are present, gives the shape or gives the characteristics or gives the features of that cartilage. When we have dense collagen fibers, when we have thick material, ground substance, it makes it strong, as well as it is flexible in nature. So it resists, it is strong so that it can resist some forces, as well as it can resist compressions as well. Now where it is present? First, it is present in intervertebral discs. That is, if this is vertebra, this is another vertebra, and here it is, here the cartilage, that is, it is, we call it as intervertebral disc. That is, it is made up of, yes, fibrocartilage. Here it is, fibrocartilage. Then we have menisci of knee. We have two meniscus, that is, in the knee joint we have the lateral one and the medial one. What they does it, they distribute the weight, or we can say they distribute the force, or we can say they manage the force, or they stabilize the knee joint. Then we have pubic symphysis. What it does is it connects left pelvic bone with the right pelvic bone, and also present in the hip and shoulder sockets as well. Then we have the third type, that is elastic cartilage. As the name indicates, elastic fibers in the matrix, they have more elastic fibers in the matrix. It makes them flexible, but, or we can say, yet supportive. That is, they are flexible in nature, they contain elastic fibers, but they are also supportive. That is where they are present. First, they are present in the external air, that is in the pinna. Then they are present in the epicolloids, as well as in the eustachian tube. Where, what is eustachian tube? It connects internal air with the nasopharynx. Now coming to our second supporting connective tissue, that is bone. Bone, also known as osseous tissue. The cells of the bone are called osteocytes, and in the bone matrix we have collagen, we have mineral salts, particularly calcium, phosphate, and so on. What are the properties? Bones are strong and they are rigid structures. These are not the functions, these are properties. Then we have types of bone. We have two main, that is, we have compact bone and we have spongy bone, also called as cancellous bone. The compact bone is the dense outer portion of the bone, that is the hard surfaces that we can feel, or we can say the outer portions of the bone, that is the compact bone. And we have the spongy bone, that is the internal lattice like structure, that is crisscross like structure, crisscross. This we call it as spongy bone. Then we have the inner medullary cavity, that is the cavity located inside the bone, that is the middle cavity. It contains bone marrow, we call it as medullary cavity. And the covering of the bone, that is the outer covering, we call it as periosteum. Then coming to the filbert connective tissue. In filbert connective tissue we have two main tissues, that is we have blood and lymph. Blood consists of two main components, that is plasma 55% and formal elements 45%. In formal elements we have RBCs, WBCs, and platelets, that is erythrocytes, leukocytes, and thrombocytes. Then we have the second type of filbert connective tissue, that is lymph. So lymph is also a filbert connective tissue. So what actually the lymph is? For example, this is the tissue and these are the cells of the tissue, and in between the cells we have interstitial space, and in this interstitial space we have a fluid present, and this fluid is known as interstitial fluid. And when this interstitial fluid is present in excess, it is drained into lymphatic circulation by lymphatic capillaries. So this fluid is present in the cells. When this fluid is present in the excess, it enters into the blind end tubes called lymphatic capillaries. And when this fluid enters into the lymphatic capillaries, it is called as lymph. So the moment this interstitial fluid enters into the lymphatic capillaries, it is called as lymph. So this lymph now enters into lymphatic vessels and is eventually drained into the blood, or we can say venous circulation. What I have written here, that is, it returns excess interstitial fluid that I have already told you. Then it transports immune cells through the lymphatic system. This interstitial fluid, it also contains some immune cells. So when it transports these immune cells, so we call it as it participates in the immune defense as well. So that was it for today's lecture. Now we have completed the connective tissue. In the next, we are going to discuss nervous tissue or muscle tissue. But before moving, you should just remember the connective tissue proper here in detail, and these two, that is supporting and filled with connective tissue, you are going to learn them again in their separate chapters as well. But remember connective tissue proper here. Again, going to the classification of connective tissue, we are dividing connective tissue into three main types. That is, first is connective tissue proper, then we have supporting connective tissue, then filled with connective tissue. In connective tissue proper, we have loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. In loose connective tissue, we have further three types. That is loose areolar connective tissue, loose adipose connective tissue, and loose reticular connective tissue. In loose adipose, we have white adipose connective tissue and brown adipose connective tissue. Then coming to the dense connective tissue, we have dense regular, dense irregular, and we have elastic connective tissue. Then coming to the supporting connective tissue, we have bone and we have cartilage. Cartilage, we have three types. That is hyaline cartilage, fibrocartilage, and we have elastic cartilage. Coming to the bone, we can say bone have two main types, or we can say parts. That is spongy bone and compact bone. Then coming to the filled with connective tissue, we have two main tissues. That is blood and lymph. In blood, we have 55% of plasma and 45% of formed elements. In formed elements, we have RBCs, we have WBCs, and we have platelets. So that was it for today's lecture. If you find this lecture useful, do like the video, subscribe the channel, and share it with your friends and classmates. I will see you in the next lecture.